Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in life when your dignity is challenged, your worth is tested, and your spirit is confronted, not by hardship, but by the poison of disrespect. It comes in whispers behind your back. It comes in glances that mock. It comes in words designed to wound. But I want to tell you today, you do not have to surrender your peace to their poison. There is a better way. There is a higher road. There is a divine strategy to destroy the very root of disrespect, not by force, not by vengeance, not by shouting louder than the voices that belittle you, but by standing firm in who you are and whose you are. Let me remind you, when someone disrespects you, they are revealing more about their character than about yours. They see the light in you, and it exposes the darkness in them. So they try to smother your flame with insults, gossip, mockery. But listen to me, you don't fight fire with fire. You overcome darkness by shining brighter. Disrespect thrives in the hidden corners where self-worth has been bruised, diminished, or forgotten. It's a destructive force that often gains its power from the emptiness people feel within themselves. When you do not recognize your own value, when you allow your identity to be shaped by the opinions and criticisms of others, disrespect finds a comfortable home. It grows where there is doubt, insecurity, and a lack of personal clarity. That is why the first and most powerful way to destroy disrespect is to revive and reinforce your self-worth. When a person knows who they are, when their confidence is built not on applause or approval, but on solid principles and truth, then no insult, no rejection, and no dismissive attitude can shake them. True confidence doesn't come from being loud or aggressive. It comes from being deeply rooted in a sense of purpose, dignity, and unshakable identity. To reclaim your worth is to remember that you are not defined by temporary failures, by public opinion, or by someone else's inability to recognize your value. You were born with a purpose. Nothing anyone says or does can take that away unless you hand it to them. When you internalize this truth, you begin to view disrespect differently. You stop seeing it as a reflection of your weakness and start recognizing it as a reflection of someone else's brokenness. You understand that hurt people often hurt others, and those who walk in darkness will always be threatened by those who carry light. But that does not give them authority over your identity. That does not make their words gospel. And it surely does not mean you are obligated to carry their judgment into your heart. Self-worth is not arrogance. It's not pretending you are better than others. It is simply the unwavering recognition that your value is not up for debate. It is knowing that your presence has purpose, that your existence is intentional, and that your life is not small, even when others try to make it so. When you walk in that kind of assurance, you create an internal fortress that disrespect cannot penetrate. You become mentally and emotionally immune to the poison of belittlement because you have tasted the truth of who you are. And once that truth takes root, disrespect cannot survive. It suffocates in the presence of strong, grounded identity. That's why the battle against disrespect is not won in the mouths of others. It is won in the heart of the one who refuses to be diminished. The greatest defense is not revenge, retaliation, or harsh words. It is quiet, consistent self-respect. It is holding your head high, not because you are proud, but because you remember that you are not a mistake. You are not worthless. You are not the sum of people's opinions. You are worthy, valuable, and enough. And when that reality sinks deep into your soul, disrespect dies, not because others change, but because you do. Many believe that when someone disrespects you, the most powerful response is to fight back loudly, to defend yourself in the heat of the moment, or to return insult for insult. But that is not true strength. That is reaction rooted in wounded pride. Real strength is measured by self-control, by restraint, by the ability to stay calm and composed when everything in you wants to retaliate. Silence is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of wisdom in motion. When you are quiet in the face of provocation, you are not surrendering. You are choosing your battles wisely. You are preserving your peace instead of letting someone else control your emotions. Silence doesn't mean you don't feel the pain. It means you are mature enough to process without giving power to it. Some words do not deserve a response, and some battles are not worth the scars. When you respond with silence and discipline, you leave no room for the disrespectful to drag you into their storm. You stand in your own stillness, and that disturbs them more than any argument ever could. Silence gives you the space to respond with purpose instead of impulse. It gives you clarity. It allows time to filter the situation through truth instead of emotion. In a world where everyone is quick to clap back, to defend their name, to speak first and think later, silence is a rare and powerful act of self-governance. It does not mean you allow people to walk over you. It means you refuse to meet them on the low ground of disrespect. You wait. You observe. And when you do respond, it is with calculated grace, not to prove yourself right, but to prove that you are unshakable. This kind of silence becomes a weapon, not one that wounds others, but one that shields your peace and confuses your critics. It reveals who really holds the power in the moment. And when you don't give them your anger, you don't give them control, you remain free. Likewise, the loudest voices are often the most insecure. They shout to cover their own inner void. So when you encounter disrespect, recognize that what's coming at you is often a reflection of someone else's chaos, not your character. Their words may be sharp, but they are powerless unless you absorb them. Your silence becomes a shield. Your restraint becomes a message that you refuse to be pulled down. You are not operating at their level. You are moving from a place of understanding, stability, and self-respect. And in that place, disrespect loses its voice. When you learn to remain silent, not from fear, but from wisdom, you rise above the petty, the toxic, the small-minded. You take control not just of the situation, but of your soul. You walk away not defeated, but dignified. That is how silence becomes your strength, because it is guided by peace, not pride. Living a life of honor in the midst of dishonor is not just a moral decision, it is a transformational practice. When the soil is hostile and the climate cold, most would choose to withdraw, but to plant seeds of respect And kindness in that soil takes courage. It is easy to reflect what others give you. It takes strength to give what they don't deserve. Disrespect wants you to mirror it, to multiply it, to participate in its toxic cycle. But when you return kindness for insult, calmness for chaos, and truth for lies, you are not just rising above. You are actively destroying the power of disrespect at its root. You become the breaker of the cycle. You refuse to let their hatred define your response. That choice may not change them, but it will always change you. Honor is not weakness. It is a choice to protect your integrity. It's not about letting others off the hook. It's about not letting yourself sink to their level. When you continue to speak with dignity, even to those who mock you, you maintain power over yourself and influence over the atmosphere. People may not say it, but they see it. They notice the difference. And often, the most powerful rebuke to those who operate in disrespect is the unwavering presence of someone who refuses to respond in kind. You teach others how to treat you not just by what you allow, but by how you respond. When you consistently choose honor, you remind those around you that respect is not earned by titles or fear, but by character. And even if others don't change, you'll sleep with peace in your heart because you chose the high road. That's not weakness. That's wisdom clothed in courage. Disrespect often aims to provoke, to shake your emotions, and to pull you into a place where you respond impulsively. That's why one of the most powerful tools you can develop in this battle is emotional discipline. This is not about suppressing your feelings or pretending not to be hurt. It's about learning how to process your emotions in a healthy and strategic way. Emotional discipline allows you to pause before you react, to reflect before you respond, and to rise above instead of sinking below. It gives you the clarity to see that not every comment needs a reply, not every insult requires retaliation, and not every situation deserves your energy. It takes strength to feel deeply and still remain calm. And the truth is, the more emotionally disciplined you are, the more control you gain. Not over others, but over yourself. That kind of self-mastery is rare, and it is exactly what makes you untouchable in the face of disrespect. Because when you refuse to let another person dictate your emotional state, you disarm them completely. You are no longer dancing to their rhythm. You are leading with composure. Think about it. Anyone can shout when they are angry. Anyone can lash out when they are offended. But it takes a person of wisdom and inner strength to feel those things and still choose a response that aligns with who they are, not with what they feel in the heat of the moment. Emotional discipline is not about denying your humanity. It's about maturing through it. It means you acknowledge the hurt, you recognize the pain, but you don't let it take the wheel. You still lead with grace. You still speak with intention. And when others expect you to explode and you remain calm, you break their power over you. The moment you realize that your peace is more valuable than proving a point is the moment you begin to win. Because the goal is not just to silence disrespect. It's to rise so far above it that it can no longer reach you. Let no one take you out of your character. That's what disrespect tries to do. It pokes and pushes until you abandon your values and fight on its level. But emotional discipline keeps you anchored. It reminds you that your response is your responsibility. You can't control what others say, but you can control how you carry yourself. And when you consistently respond with maturity, patience, and truth, even the most disrespectful voices will begin to sound small. Because in the end, people remember not just what happened, but how you handled it. They may forget the insult, but they will never forget the way you held your peace. To truly live above disrespect, you must learn how to stand tall while staying soft. These two qualities, strength and tenderness, are not opposites. They are complements. Standing tall means refusing to let others diminish your worth. It means walking in confidence, owning your space, speaking your truth, and knowing who you are. But staying soft means keeping your heart open, not becoming bitter, not allowing the harshness of others to harden your spirit. It means responding to cruelty with kindness, to mockery with wisdom, to ignorance with understanding. This is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength, because anybody can build walls and armor themselves with anger. But to stay soft in a hard world, to keep loving in a world full of hate, to keep believing in dignity and decency in a culture that celebrates disrespect, that requires extraordinary courage. Standing tall is about posture, presence, and principle. You don't have to prove your strength by being loud or aggressive. True strength is often quiet, confident, and unmoved. When you stand tall, you become a reminder that character matters. And when you stay soft, you become a source of light in a dark atmosphere. You don't let what's around you change what's within you. Yes, people will test you. Yes, they may try to break you with their sarcasm, their condescension, or their mockery. But when you are rooted in love and clothed in humility, you rise above their attempts. Standing tall, but staying soft is the art of graceful resistance. You don't need to argue with everyone who disrespects you. You just need to continue being excellent in what you do, consistent in how you live, and kind in how you treat others. That kind of posture confuses the disrespectful. They don't know what to do with someone who doesn't fight back the way they expect. And slowly, without a word, you begin to silence them, not by overpowering them, but by outlasting them. Because kindness endures, integrity endures, truth endures. And if you stay soft, you never allow the world to change your heart. You remain who you were created to be, unmoved by hate and untouched by bitterness. That is how you walk through disrespect, not broken, not angry, but elevated. There is a great difference between confronting a wrong, condemning a person, and if we truly desire to kill disrespect, we must learn the art of holding others accountable without becoming like them. Disrespect is often perpetuated because people either tolerate it silently or attack it with equal venom. But there is a third way, a higher way, and that is to confront it with courage, clarity, and conviction, but without hate. Standing tall and correcting someone doesn't require shouting or shaming. It requires integrity. It's easy to throw insults back at those who insult you, but it takes maturity to address the issue, call out the behavior, and yet maintain your own dignity in the process. When you hold someone accountable, you are not trying to belittle them. You are giving them an opportunity to rise. You are saying, I will not let you treat me like this. Not because you are angry, but because you respect yourself too much to allow disrespect to continue unchallenged. And even more, you are showing them what respect looks like, even as you correct them. We often think that accountability is about others, but it starts with us. Before you hold others responsible for their words, ask yourself, how do I speak to others? How do I respond when I'm under pressure? Am I quick to belittle, mock, or dismiss? Killing disrespect starts in the mirror. You can't expect others to rise to a standard you refuse to live by. So hold yourself accountable, not to perfection, but to principle. Speak truth, yes, but do it in love. Correct when needed, but do it with wisdom. Be bold, but never brutal. Because every time you confront wrong with the right spirit, you become a walking lesson in what respect should look like. People may not respond immediately, but seeds are being planted. They may resist you in the moment, but they will remember your posture, your tone, your peace. The most transformative accountability is not forced. It is inspired. When people see you consistently living above the noise, they begin to reevaluate how they treat you and how they treat others. You don't need to police everyone. Just live the truth so loudly they can't ignore it. And when someone crosses a boundary, don't let fear silence you. Don't let anger distort your message. Speak clearly. Stand firmly. But do it with such calm conviction that your presence alone demands a new level of respect. That is how you shift the atmosphere. Not through domination, but through demonstration. When you operate this way, you begin to understand that accountability is not a weapon. It's a light. It exposes wrong not to destroy, but to illuminate. And sometimes people disrespect others because no one has ever shown them a better way. Be that example. Be the one who says, we don't do that here. We don't treat people like that. We rise higher. And when you live that consistently, your life becomes a message that others can't help but hear. You don't need to be loud to be strong. You just need to be rooted in something deeper than ego. Rooted in truth. Rooted in character. Rooted in love. That is the ground where disrespect withers and dies. It is a mistake to think that in order to overcome disrespect, you must become hardened, cold, or emotionally distant. Many have fallen into this trap, believing that shutting off their feelings or becoming aggressive is the only way to survive in a world that often seems void of honor. But this kind of reaction only creates more damage. The true strength lies in standing tall, in being rooted in truth and self-worth, while keeping your heart soft enough to love, forgive, and lead with compassion. This balance is not natural. It is cultivated through intentional living. Standing tall means you do not shrink back in the face of disrespect. You do not second-guess your value or diminish your voice. You speak when necessary, walk with confidence, and maintain your posture, even when others try to tear you down. But to stay soft at the same time, that is divine. That means not allowing the actions of others to change who you are at the core. It means continuing to treat people with decency even when they haven't earned it. It means holding on to mercy in a world full of mockery. Staying soft is not a form of weakness. It's one of the highest forms of courage. It's easy to become cynical. It's easy to let bitterness take root. But to keep your heart tender and your words seasoned with grace when disrespect tries to invade your space, that is strength that doesn't need to scream. It's a quiet power, a power that doesn't destroy others, but disarms them. When you are both firm in your identity and gentle in your approach, you teach people that kindness is not the absence of strength. It is the evidence of it. And slowly, without preaching or shouting, your life becomes a lesson. You're showing that it is possible to be both bold and gentle, both truthful and loving, both confident and humble. This posture creates a powerful ripple effect. When you stand tall and stay soft, others begin to see a better way. You model what it means to live above offense. You demonstrate how to respond to disrespect without losing your peace. You don't let others set the temperature of your soul. You carry your own climate, and wherever you go, that climate begins to shift the atmosphere. People start realizing that disrespect doesn't thrive in the presence of calm confidence. They see that power doesn't have to be loud, angry, or harsh. It can be measured. It can be gentle. It can be calm and still command the room. In a world that is constantly shouting, reacting, and fighting, there is something incredibly powerful about someone who knows who they are, refuses to stoop to negativity, and still chooses love over bitterness. That is how you kill disrespect. Not with retaliation, not with silence born from fear, but with an unshakable resolve to live with dignity and to treat others with grace, even when they don't deserve it. Your strength lies not in how loudly you respond, but in how firmly you remain rooted in your values. And when you master this balance, standing tall while staying soft, you become a force that cannot be ignored. Disrespect will lose its power, not because it no longer exists, but because it can no longer touch who you are. Disrespect often grows louder when it is unchecked, unchallenged, and allowed to linger in silence. But the goal is not to match disrespect with rage or to stoop to its level. The goal is to destroy it through consistent accountability, first for yourself and then for others. There's a profound difference between reacting out of offense and responding with clarity and control. When you let accountability speak louder than anger, you shift the entire conversation. You stop being a reactor and become a reformer. Holding someone accountable doesn't require shouting, threatening, or revenge. It requires truth, firmness, and the courage to stand by what's right, even if it's uncomfortable. When someone disrespects you, your response teaches them how to treat you in the future. If you explode in anger, they win. If you shrink in silence, they assume victory. But if you respond with calm conviction, with a clear boundary, and unwavering self-respect, they are forced to reconsider their posture. Accountability begins when you refuse to excuse bad behavior, whether it's from strangers, loved ones, or even from yourself. It's not about being harsh or judgmental, but about valuing what is right so deeply that you won't allow anything, less to continue around you. Some people may call it confrontational, but it's actually liberating. When you call out disrespect, not in rage, but in reason, you show others that honor still matters. You don't let your emotions lead you, but you don't let dishonor go unchecked either. And that balance is what builds strength. You hold the line. You draw clear expectations. You become someone others respect, not just for your words, but for your unwavering integrity. But before you can hold others accountable, you must be willing to hold yourself to that same standard. Do your words uplift or tear down? Do your actions reflect the values you expect from others? Are you carrying bitterness, sarcasm, or pride without noticing? Disrespect can't live long in an environment where people are actively growing, refining, and correcting themselves. So be brave enough to evaluate your own heart. Speak with truth, but also walk in humility, because the most credible voice of correction is it, the one that has done the inner work first. You don't have to fight every battle with emotion. Some of the most powerful confrontations are handled with a calm tone, steady eyes, and peaceful certainty. You can say, "This is not acceptable," and walk away with your peace intact. You can say, "I won't allow myself to be treated this way," and never raise your voice. That is strength. That is leadership. That is the kind of character that changes environments. And slowly, those who once disrespected you will either rise to your level or remove themselves from your presence. Let your standards be known, not through prideful declarations, but through consistent behavior. Let people see that you do not tolerate what dishonors your values. Not because you're better than others, but because you respect yourself enough to demand more. In doing so, you don't just protect your own dignity. You raise the atmosphere around you. You become a mirror that shows others what is possible when someone chooses truth over temperament, composure over chaos, and principle over pettiness. That's how disrespect dies. Not by shouting it down, but by living in a way that makes it irrelevant. When accountability leads, disrespect loses its voice.